everybody. It's Liz here with Springfield Leather. This is episode 2 of our brand new Make Something podcast. So hopefully everybody enjoyed episode 1 that released at some point in the last week or two. Not really sure. Don't know when. Is it going to release tomorrow? Saturdays. We're releasing on Saturdays. See, Adam, this is what I told you at lunch is I just find things out as they happen.
Hey. I'm
not fully briefed on anything. I just show up.
Just making it happen.
That's right. So I am here with the lovely Adam Love from Hermann Oak Leather today. How you doing?
I'm doing good. It's always a good day to be in Springfield.
That's right. I wish it wasn't quite so hot, but we'll get over it.
Yeah.
Eventually, winter will come again and we'll wish for this.
No, that's good. We're just glad to be here. Like so we're not too far down the road, so we're only 3 hours away. So quick trip down for the day just to see what's going on. We got a new employee, so we wanted to introduce him to some outside of our Hermann Oak 4 walls and show him a little bit more about the leathercraft world and what you guys did here. So we cut him loose for the next hour or so just to wander about Springfield leather.
We did. We shoot him into the ether and said, go learn about leather. Yeah, They're going to cut some up for you. All right. So you are with a tannery, which is where the whole leather thing starts. I mean, it starts on a farm, but then before it gets to us, it has to become leather. Mm-hmm. So tell us about life at Hermann Oak. Mm-hmm. What is that like?
Fun. It's an interesting job to have. When you say I work at a tannery, I said, well, most people wouldn't even know what that means. When you say I make leather. Oh, you make wallets? No, we actually make the leather. What do you mean you make the leather? So, at the most basic level, we take jumbo native steer hides and take the hair off and turn them into a material leather that's sold to saddle makers, holster makers, wallet belt makers, furniture makers, any kind of crafter that uses leather as their medium. So we've been doing it for 144 years in St. Louis, Missouri in the same spot.
Yeah.
So it's a 5th generation family owned operation. It's been operating in St. Louis, Missouri, making vegetable tanned leather the same way we've been making it for 144 years, since 1881. A lot's changed, but a lot stayed the same. Every day is different, but we try to make every day the same as far as the process and what we do. But so to describe a day in the tannery, it starts early. It's on Fridays. They start at 3:30.
No way.
Yeah. So there's about 60 guys that all decided that on Fridays they want to start a little earlier. So they come in and they get started because it gets hot and they get done early and they get out of there. But first shift starts around 4. The guys started taking hides that the hair has been taken off. They take them out of the paddles, cut them into sides, send them through the beam house. And then the next shift shows up to pick them up from there and carry them on through the rest of the process before they get put into the tan yards.
So when does the next shift start?
It's 4, 6, 8. It's kind of a staggered start for the day.
Right.
So, and then some guys get out of there at 12. Some guys get out of there at 2, and the last group usually gets out about 4:30. So it's kind of a staggered start, but it's the whole tanning process is a big. It's a start. If we start it, we have to finish it. Right. We start that morning. If we take them out of the paddles, they've got to go somewhere. Got to go in the tan yards. If it comes out, it's got to go in the drums and got to go to drying.
You don't want rotted hides sitting around.
No. So what we do is, we're a vegetable tannery, and that means that we use a tree bark wood extract to tan the leather. Effectively preserving it, preventing bacterial decay, and making it something that lasts and is usable over.
You're transforming the protein, correct?
Correct. So the hides themselves, when we're taking the hair off, we're putting the wood extract into the hide structure that's taking up space so that those proteins can't effectively rot.
Right.
Preserving it over the course of a 6 to 8 week process so that when it comes out, it's dried leather and ready to go.
Yeah. So, I mean, just going back to the fact that not a lot of people work in tanneries. Well, specifically in the United States, there's a lot of leather that is being made throughout the world. Mm-hmm. But here specifically in the United States, you're one of 2
veg tanneries in the U.S.
Veg tanneries, and there are no chrome tanneries. Is that correct?
There are chrome. Actually, there's actually technically 3 veg in the U.S.
Okay.
So Horween does do some veg. So it's us, Horween, and Wicket. So those 3 all do veg. Then there is some chrome tanneries in Milwaukee.
Are they tanning or are they finishing?
I think they do both.
Okay.
So there's a lot of wet blue that's done in the U.S. at the packing houses, and that's sent to wherever for shoes overseas, or some of it's tanned here and finished in the U.S. So there are some finished leathers in the U.S., both chrome and veg.
So you like the pack houses, so like the slaughterhouses,
correct.
They're going to take the meat one way, do this, and then they're going to go into another place and they're going to wet blue the hides.
Correct. So
is that
wet blue
part of the
is chrome tanning.
Okay.
So they've effectively tanned them using chromium. Right. They haven't dried or finished them. They just they're preserved, but then they just get shipped off to wherever they're going to be finished. In some cases that's overseas. Like I said, a lot of the footwear, shoe leathers, and
I did not realize that some of your big pack houses are actually doing that beginning process.
They're actually some of the largest tanneries. I mean, those are the largest. So 10,000 hides a day, I think, go through some of those.
Wow.
So there's a lot of tanning done in the U.S. And for context, chrome tan makes up over 90% of the leather tanned in the world.
Right.
So we're a little small niche industry in the veg world for sure.
That's really fascinating. I really didn't realize that they were chrome tanning at the packing plants, which is that's a different kind of thought process for me. I know a few weeks ago we talked about some thought processes between finishing leathers and the different types of finish, and how we had pigmented finish, aniline finish, and then a combination or all of these things. So learning that a little bit that's pretty fascinating.
Yeah.
And we're still doing that. I just assumed they packed them up with the hair on, just like you guys get them.
Nope. And then the tanneries are right there. They actually do a lot of the tanning. There's actually a large one. I'm not sure what scale they do, but it's up in Northwest Missouri. That does quite a bit. And there's a handful.
Really cool. That's
not that familiar with how many and where they're at. But there's a handful.
So you have to stop it before it gets there.
Right.
You have to pre-order those hides before they just start finishing them.
Yeah. We're buying them by the truckload, palletized. They come to us salt cured. So the hair on, they're pre-fleshed or green fleshed, and they get ran through a raceway of salt and effectively cured. When they show up to us, they're hair on, palletized, and then our first step is to remove the salt, remove the manure, urine, all the dirt that's left on the hides, and then from there we start taking the hair off. So
fascinating. So Hermann Oak tans heavy U.S. steers. So everything all the material that you produce is here from the States. How do you work with your vendors to get those hides?
Yeah. So we have a hide buyer who is our CEO, Tom Eberle. He's been in the leather industry for quite some time. Grew up in a tannery. So he is our hide buyer, and on a weekly basis, he's talking to multiple packing houses. We have a few that have really good relationships with. His goal is just to stay in communication with them and make sure that we're giving them feedback. So if there's something that we're seeing that doesn't work well, or gives us problems, or ultimately we're getting feedback from you as a customer that says, hey, this isn't, something seems different, or we're seeing a lot more of this kind of defect or damage. If that's feedback that we can take to the packing house, say, we really seen a lot of this.
Yeah.
But Tom's communicating with them regularly. He's buying hides by the truckload, and we actually have a facility down the road from the tannery where we keep our cold storage hides, which means we're buying extra in the summer and fall, so that we're not buying winter hides where the quality of those hides actually drops.
Yeah. Tell us about the reason because that was a pretty recent investment that you guys did to move into cold storage, correct?
Yeah. We bought I've been with Hermann Oak, it'll be 3 years this fall, and we bought that building right after I started. So we've had that building for just a couple of years. And before that we were renting a space. So the goal was reduce the variability in the hide quality that we're getting from the packing houses. There's no way around it that winter hides have there's a different quality of the winter hides from the fact that these cattle sit in feedlots. They get cold like we do. So they would lay down in the manure and those mud balls, they would stick to them, and the hair gets longer, which gives us more of a problem unhairing, and it's harder to see brands. So you get more brands, and just overall the quality of the hide is less on the winter hides. So we thought, well, what if we could stockpile and have a place to keep these hides to reduce that variability,
right?
What would that look like? So we did it. And then we ended up buying a building, and now we keep basically half our year's worth of hides until we start buying again in May.
So what kind of stock does that look like?
As far as
at what would it be, the end of the summer when you stop buying?
Yeah.
How many hides do you have in storage to make you through?
5 months worth.
It's crazy.
So, a lot. it fills a full warehouse. So that's a cold storage warehouse. So.
Wow.
But yeah, we're working with the packing houses, giving them feedback. We buy jumbo heavy native steers, meaning there's a minimum weight, and their steers. The non-branded is the native. We do get some brands, but there's an industry standard that allows a certain percentage of brands to get into that. But that's why when you get into the winter, it's harder to find those with longer hair. So we avoid buying those because we would rather not buy them. So.
Yeah. Well, so when it comes to tanning leather, you tan all the leather the same. If it has a brand on it, if it doesn't have a brand on it, if it has rash marks or not, it all goes into the pits. And then at the end of your 6 weeks, everything comes out, and then you see what you have.
You got it.
And
everything starts in the same spot. And a number 1 grade side of skirting and a D grade side of strap could be a left and a right side off the same cow. You just don't know what you got until it gets upstairs.
Yeah.
And we do an initial sort in the beam house after we've got the hair off to decide, hey, what's the best outlet for this? Is it something that would be a good, at this point we can see brands.
Okay.
So we can decide where they're going to go. And if they're lightweight, if they're something that we think should go into our heavier weight skirting selection, we can make that determination then. So we kind of have an inflection point where we can determine what the best route for this leather is. But once they go into the tan yards, they're side by side. There's no difference between a number 1 tannage and a number 4 tannage. They're all tanned right there the same. So the quality of the tannage is the same.
Right.
When you start talking about grade, what you're really talking about is the yield expectations, right?
Right.
You would expect based on, given what you're making, if you're making coasters, your yield's going to be different than belts.
Right.
You can probably buy a D grade and get a lot of really good coasters.
Yeah.
You're going to get less belts out of that, but that's the difference in grade relative to yield expectations. But the quality of the tannage is still there. I think it was Kevin's line that said every D grade has some A grade in it. You just got to look.
That's right. Yeah.
So,
you just got to cut around the defects, and every piece of defect that you cut out, you produce an A grade piece of leather. There's no longer a defect present, which is that's really fascinating. I know, tanneries run on very slim margins. And so you guys want to produce the most B grade leather that you can.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, if you, like you said, if you're buying during the winter and you get this rough batch of hides and you end up with a lot of lower grades, that's a lower profit, but you've done the work is exactly the same to get that final product.
Yeah. And it costs the same to tan a low grade hide as a high grade. So, or a small hide versus a large hide, the same cost to put one through the tannery. So yeah, our goal is to produce the best leather we can as consistently as we can. So we have a pretty stringent process to make sure that we're doing that. But every once in a while we'll have some leather come through that isn't, what we want. And that's where those lower grades come from. So there's variability in it, but the cost is the same, and they're tanned right beside each other. And our goal is to be as consistent as we can every day.
Yeah. So with the hides as they move through the process, you talked about, you're kind of pre-sorting for different things. How many different articles at Hermann Oak do you guys produce?
So that's a good question. It's a hard question because once leather gets dried and gets upstairs, it's a custom shop. I mean, it truly is. If you said how many SKUs or articles do you have, I couldn't even tell you, because every little change creates a new SKU, new article. If we're gonna, spray this and press it versus just spray it and not press it, everything's different. So I mean, it's thousands. I mean, it's literally thousands of different combinations that you could make of every finish possible, from color to weight and thickness. I mean, you got to think a side of 910 is different than a 6-7 as far as SKU count and article go. But if you wanted to break it down into base leathers that we make,
Let's call it generic categories.
Categories of leather. I mean, realistically, we make a skirting leather, we make a strap leather, we make a harness leather, we make an English bridle leather, we make Latigo, we make our waterproof or water resistant heritage and expedition leathers. So I mean, there's 7 as we'd call it our base leathers.
I know for a while I was buying a Western bridle.
Yeah. So
it was an unfinished bridle.
Yeah. So again, that's a variation of one type of leather. So we've taken one and we said, well, what can we do to improve this or customize it for Liz or whatever customers need? So that's a good example of, I could list them all off, but it would take us a while just because that's what we do to satisfy customers is what can we do to make leather that suits your needs? And
well, along those veins, I know I've heard you guys discussing about, like when you make leather for Springfield Leather PO, you go about it in a specific way. When Don Gonzalez calls you and he needs a batch of leather, you know what he needs. You've built this relationship with him and you have a way to cull your selection of hides to make sure that Springfield Leather gets what they need. Don Gonzalez is getting what he needs. And then, the whole array of other customers that you have, because you've built these kind of relationships with your customers. Yeah. And you said 140 years that Hermann Oak has been doing this. What is Hermann Oak's lane in the leather world?
So our goal is to elevate the industry and educate and just overall contribute to the industry and help it prosper and grow. We operate in a very small niche part of the leather industry, like we talked about, but we've been around for a long time. And, this really goes back to, you can start at the beginning of Hermann Oak with, L.C. Hermann, fast forward 4 generations to Shep Hermann. His transformation of the company wasn't necessarily let's optimize profitability and do all these things and make a bunch of money. His goal was transform the culture of our company so that we can be better situated to support the industry and the people that work here. So complete reversal of what you'd say like modern day business focuses on, which is how can we be as profitable and the best efficient lean company that we can. Shep's goal was our customer base is unique. And they're awesome. They're so fun to deal with. But we need to have a company culture that sets us up to where everybody that's operating within this company is thinking along those lines of how can we help at every turn? Like what can we do? So when we go to shows, when we go to customer visits, whatever we're doing, like our goal isn't, we go to shows, we're not selling at shows. We're not vending per se.
That's right. You have a small booth with some finished products.
We're there to support the industry and help. Yeah. So, our role, our lane in the industry, we have a specific lane and product that we sell. But we like the fact that there's other veg in the US. Like that gives people choices. Our leather's great, but it's not great for everything. There's certain uses that it doesn't make sense for. So we're not naive to that. We want people to have choices. There's some people that don't need the quality of leather for the project they're using. That's understood. So we're not here to pigeonhole anybody into forcing them to buy our leather. We just want to make sure that we're doing everything to educate people, support the industry, and make sure that people know what options are available. There's a lot of things that we do, leathers we make that people don't know we make, which is wild. We're too close to it at times where we think, well, yeah, of course we make black drum dyed leather. But that's not obvious because we haven't told people. So our goal is to make sure that we're educating people, we're presenting people with the leathers that we make as solutions to their problems or opportunities for growth in their business.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's been really cool to I feel like every generation of Hermann Oak, whoever that Hermann has been, has really tried to focus Hermann Oak to the needs of that time period in the world, in the United States. I know, it started out as tack for horses in 1881, and then the car came along, and then they didn't need all the tack anymore. Like that, I feel like when Shep was here, we were having a meeting in the shop one day, and he was talking about how it just literally in 5 years, you went from horse and buggies to cars, and suddenly nobody needed reins.
Yeah, he tells the story better than I'll ever tell it. But, we're in St. Louis. It's the gateway to the West. In 1881, we were originally in the transportation business. Like we were making reins. We were making harness leather that was used to pull wagons.
Yeah.
People moved west. Like that was originally what we did. We still make harness leather today, but that was the only leather we made at that time.
Right.
Fast forward to World War I, there was a need for pulling things onto a battlefield. We were supplying leather to the military for that purpose. Fast forward to World War II, this is the inflection point. There's this thing called the Jeep that comes around that really takes over the need for horse and buggy. And then fast forward even further to the invention of the tractor and things like that. It's like, well, now you don't need it as much for the plow. It's like, well, what are we going to do? What are we going to do to innovate? And that's where we started making leathers for equestrian, for like the saddle skirting leathers, and then leathers for holster making and belt making. And that's really set us, of course, where that's become a really primary piece of our business. So it was a continuous iteration. And like I said, when every generation's iterated something, and Shep as fourth generation, he would hang his hat on his transformation of the company was not something. He brought the company through a period of time where there was quality issues with the tannage, and he was resourceful and found ways to improve that.
When did he take over the tannery?
I think he came back into the business in the late 80s, early 90s.
Okay.
And was working with his dad, Fred, and Shep's brother was also involved in the business for a while. And eventually Shep purchased the company to where he was a sole owner operator. He focused on the culture of the company, and after the improvements to the tannage and got it back to where it needed to be, he was able to focus on the culture of the company. So implemented a really good system where we simplified a lot of the things we did, where the culture was number one, the product was second, and then our responsibilities were the third. So we kind of gave it a priority in our triangles. So if you can pull that up, that's a graphic you can show.
Is that on the Hermann Oak website?
Gosh, it should be. Actually, I bet it's not. This is our new website, so it's not all on there yet, but it will be. I'll find it so you can link it to it. But there's a PDF. Actually, it's on the tour video. It's on the very end of the tour video. But basically, it's fast forward to the back a little bit. There you go.
Boom. Right there.
Oh, ad time. But basically, it's what we live by day in, day out at the tannery. And the goal is to simplify it to where it's not hard to think like every day, what do I come into work and do? And the mission is satisfied customers. Right. Simple. But we have to, for all the things that you see here, our culture, our product, our responsibilities, for any of that to work, the bottom is about as important as anything, is we don't give or take anything personally, right? We're going to get feedback. We're going to continuously improve, but we're going to work together as a team to do it. This comes into play in the tannery, where the 60 guys that are out there making leather every day are part of the process. When there's something wrong, they're engaged, they're listening, they're providing feedback. They know that somebody's listening, so that when there is a problem, they know somebody's going to listen and take their feedback, because they're the expert in their field. Just like your team running the splitter, if they're the expert in what they do, but there's multiple people running that splitter, and they're going to both be important. They've got to bounce feedback off each other and then say, "Hey, Rusty, here's what we're seeing. We need to look at this. We need to call Gonzalo and ask some questions." But
there's an issue. We need to figure it out.
But I would say this is kind of what Shep would be most proud of putting into place, because it set the company up to be successful, and you're putting the right people on the bus. And if these are day in, day out conversations. We have sessions where we go through, we call them lean problem solving sessions. They're 4 or 5 hour meetings where we're sitting down and talking about a problem with the whole group, and we're including the guys in the tannery that run the machines that we're talking about. But we review this before those meetings and make sure that everybody's thinking in the right mindset and keeping these things at the top of mind. So that was Shep's iteration. Shep passed away in October of last year, and we're fortunate enough that before he had brought his nephew, Drew, into the company. So he's now the president. And he's been with Hermann Oak for a little over a year and a half now. So
time does fly.
It is. But so now we're in our 5th generation of the Hermann family operating the company, and we're set up for the long haul.
That's really amazing. I mean, I know, like, obviously Springfield Leather is a small family-owned business. Like, if I'm having issues, I know that I can talk to Lindsay. I can go talk to Rusty. I can go wrangle Kevin from his bundles over in the coffee shop and give him an earful if I'm feeling feisty enough. So, it makes a really big difference when you work in a company. I worked for Walgreens for 5 years. I was in high school. That was the job that I got. You don't feel like you're a part of anything. You're a person at a store checking people out. You've got a store manager. He has his regional manager that comes in and tears him down every month. And then, it just gets passed along to this group of people that really are not invested at all in the company. And working for a small family business has its challenges, but it also brings a different sort of work experience, if I will, where, you've been with only 3 years. You've only been with Hermann Oak for 3 years.
3 years in October.
That's crazy. It feels like you've been there forever at this point.
Oh, that's a good or bad thing.
That's good. But so, coming from your background of work experience before that, how is working at Hermann Oak? How has it changed your mindset on having a job or what a job could mean for a company?
Well, I'll either start or finish this, but when we were talking with Rusty at lunch and he said, when I first experienced the leather industry, I thought, this is where I want to be, right? The leather industry is unique, and there's so many good things about it. Combine that with a family-owned business that has people, values people, and the culture of the company, you've created quite the combination. Go back to my work history. I've worked for a family-owned business that was very structured and very fast-growing, and they were great people to work for. But you have some structural things that come with that. With a fast-growing company, there's just limitations.
Sure.
But had great values and culture behind it, and then jumped into a much larger, privately held company, but corporate, and you get some. There's some great things with that. You get a lot of resources, but you lose that personal connection with the owners. And then jump to another small business that the cultural values are different. So I've kind of seen all the combinations of it. And when I got to Hermann Oak, day one, I was like, there's just, there's something different about this. And I say day one. Day one was not when I was employed there. Day one when I walked there for a tour, because I had a need to know something about leather, and I knew somebody at the tannery. So I said, hey, can I take a tour? And I call that day one, because when I walked through the tannery, same thing. I said, man, there's just something different about it. And then no intentions of getting a job there, but I got a call a little bit later, and they said, hey, we have a need. Do you have any interest in coming to work here? So it worked out. But I would say day one was when I walked through and saw that family culture, the value of people. I still, there's a gentleman that works in the tannery. His name's Thomas, who's been there for 19 years now. And he's, great person and just a giant of a man in general. But I remember walking through, and I remember that he stopped working at his machine. I'm just a guy taking a tour, and he walked up to me and shook my hand and introduced himself and told me about what he was doing. He's bought in. And I was like, this is different.
Yeah.
You walk through a production shop or any facility, and a lot of times it's head down. How can I got to keep working. There's the brass is walking through with somebody that I don't know. That's the opposite. People see that at Hermann Oak, and they're like, hey, let's go talk to them. Right. they want it because they want to know what's going on. And we encourage you. We want you to know what's going on. So it was just a whole different dynamic. And
Shep was a very, very, very special person.
Yeah.
I know I wish that I had gotten to spend, a few days. I know he wasn't there all the time. Probably by the time you came in, he was enjoying himself in Florida, which he had earned.
He was celebrating life.
He was celebrating life on his boat. So that's amazing. I love it. I'm a little sad I never made it down there for him to take me to a restaurant, like a boat restaurant. He's like, yeah, they just have restaurants on boats. You just drive up to the boat and then you eat your dinner. And I was like, that was just really cool.
Yeah.
But he always took the time to talk to anybody anywhere.
Yeah.
I know meeting up with you guys at WISA, he would take us into the room that you had when we used to do it in Dallas, and we'd kind of shut the doors and we'd sit there with like the 5 or 6 people that we had brought on our annual WISA trip. And we would just talk about the leather industry, and we would talk about things that were going on, and just his willingness to share his knowledge and his insights. And I know, we always would look forward to his letter every year to kind of, how things wrapped up, where he saw us going, and those just really mindful, thoughtful things. He cared so much about the leather industry.
Good.
And, you don't get the kind of company that Hermann Oak is without having that kind of a person at the helm.
Yeah.
That really feels how critical leather can be, or just how special of a product it is. And I think about that a lot as somebody that works with leather, but then also sells leather. And we've had this conversation just a few times over the last few months. Like, this was a living animal at some point. And we're going to take this hide and we're going to make whatever out of it. Something had to die so that we have this material that is a long-lasting, it's a pretty environmentally friendly material as materials go that you could buy or use for something. It can last for 10, 15, 20, a generation amount of time if you take care of it. And so just really appreciating that about the work that we're in. And having that appreciation. And I think, we've spent a lot of time today talking about grading. That's, between us and Rusty and the shop guys, like, even just in the tanning pits, talking about when you guys buy your hides, because all these things, every animal has had a life at some point. They all lived their life on some farm doing something, or I guess I showed you a beaver hide today. He didn't live on a farm, but he was doing something. All these animals have had a life. And so when you get a piece of leather, I think just going in with the acknowledgement that this was a being that was alive, living its life, having a scratch on a barbed wire fence, doing whatever. And instead of taking the blemishes or the imperfections that come with the hide and seeing them as a negative, for me, I really like to highlight them. Like, I love a good fat wrinkle. Yeah. Let me talk about some fat wrinkles, and just appreciating that this was a being and now you're going to make something cool with it. That's kind of been our slogan, is to make something. Yeah. Take a thing and appreciate it for what it is. Yep. If there's a scar there, something happened.
Yeah. I appreciate that concept, because what we do is we make a naked natural leather. Like, we don't cover anything up. What the cow gives you is what we give you, and that's where the grading thing comes into it. But when you talk about those scars and things, right, why would you not want that integrated into something where you can? It's truly a one of one, and it tells a story. Like, when we had some notebooks made for some employees for Christmas 2 years ago, and there was a couple of them. When I sent the leather to the guy to make them, he said, "Do you want me to cut?" I said, "Cut it all." Said, every bit of it. I said, and if somebody has an issue with it, I said, we'll talk about it. But we handed them out, and I've got 2 of them that, by definition would be the worst. They've got bug bites and warts, markings, scars all over it. But I take it to a meeting, I set it on a table, and somebody looks at it and they're like, "Oh man, that's cool. What is that?" Yeah. And I go, "Well, that's a D grade, I guess. I don't know." But that's what would get kicked out of a lot of things. And I understand there's some things that you can't put that into for for a lot of reasons. But to your point, it tells a story. So when I've got the opportunity to integrate something like that into a project, it tells a story, and I'm okay with that. And I think there's a lot of people that do appreciate that. And like I said, I think that's where Shep was able to kind of transition. He really did appreciate it, and he was always teaching. Yeah. And he was always teaching. But one of the things about Shep is he was always listening, always learning. He was teaching, and he was teaching on his way out the door his last trip to the tannery. Like, it was in true Shep fashion. He was always learning something too, though. Yeah. He was always listening and always learning. So I think that's what he kind of impressed upon me and everybody at the tannery was, be paying attention, be learning at all times, and then you'll have something to teach somebody someday.
Yeah.
So
I know we were talking about, you were talking about walking the floor, like get out there every week and walk the floor. And I know I've been guilty of not leaving our little studio for, periods at a time where I'm busy doing, live shopping, the videos, this or that, or getting to my emails and all these things. And you do kind of lose touch. And so the last few weeks, we've been a little shorthanded in our gathering department. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to go gather. Like, we need this help. I kind of frankly want to get out of my room for a minute and do something. And it really is very eye-opening whenever you go and see. And I know that's part of the lean manufacturing is go and see. Go see what's going on. If you're not in the trenches every day, you can't analyze the hiccups that are happening or the speed bumps that your staff and your employees are having to work with and deal with. And they can come tell you about it. But until you're there trying to fulfill an order, and right now we're like juggling 2 systems. So that's a lot of fun. But yeah, like you don't appreciate the struggle that the people who are the experts who are doing this all the time are managing. And so getting out of your box, going and seeing is such a big and important thing, and learning, like constantly learning, because we're always changing things. I'm sure you guys are always tweaking things at the tannery, trying to just make it a little bit better or refine your processes just a little bit. Or when the guys come and they're like, hey, I'm hitting the speed bump, like, help me work through the speed bump. You're never going to know how to fix it or what steps to take if you don't go and see what's happening.
Continuous improvement. That's the root of lean. But we would say, anytime we're walking around the floor, we're always looking, not in a negative way, but we're always looking for something that we could improve and collect that information. You mentioned being on the floor. We were talking earlier just about the need for consistency, and the only way you get that is being there. I've got responsibilities that require me to be out of the tannery, in the office, on the road. That's required. But being in the tannery, seeing the leather and finishing, watching the grading, doing the grading, the more you do it, the more you see it, the more you learn it, the better that makes us at our job, which helps you all and all of your customers. We were talking about a session we had recently where 2 of our guys that are on the shop floor, they haven't been there for even a year. Like they're newer guys, but the level of consistency that they had in their grading and what their eye has been trained compared to the supervisor they work with is phenomenal. Just because they're doing it every day and they're paying attention and learning. And I said, guys, we need to do this more. Like our office staff needs to be up here doing it. When somebody calls, I want that level of consistency with our team in the office. So we're heading that direction, but it goes back to just being on the floor and seeing it. And
and taking the time out and realizing that that is so important. Because sometimes, you just get bogged down. You're like, okay, I got to do this. I got to check my emails. I got to respond to this person. I need to get this out, and you can get kind of caught in this whirlwind of getting things done. And then you don't break out of your box to go make sure that the rest of the process is flowing. Because maybe the things that are happening in your box are because you're not over here to check this out. And to be a part of it.
Just staying engaged in what the tannery and finishing department doing is the most important thing for us.
How many sides do you guys produce a day?
Depends. We can get up to, I think we can do up to 600. We try not to. We have a limited capacity. We're in a 144-year-old building, so there's some capacity limitations. So when we try to push it to its max, that's not ideal. So we try to keep it tempered down a little bit, but it can range. Depending on what the demand is. If we're going to make a little more skirting or a little more strap, we can kind of push and pull, but we kind of max out when you get to 600.
So how do you determine? Let's see here. So let's say I am Joe Schmo and I decide I want to order 10 sides from Hermann Oak because that's your minimum, right? I'm going to order 10 sides of whatever that it is. So I put in my order, and then what happens from there?
What'd you order?
I ordered, let's see here. Ooh, I'm going to choose a hard one for the summer, I hear. I ordered Old World harness.
That's not a hard one, but no. Okay. So if you ordered our Old World harness, you ordered, our extra heavy B grade harness. We do a finish on that. So you'd call and you place your order. We probably 2 to 3 weeks lead time on something like that.
Okay.
So we would take the order. We'd send a process sheet upstairs that details all the things that we're going to do that. In this case, it's a pretty stock leather. We're not splitting it to any specific weight.
You want the thickest you can find. You want
the heavy weighted range. So you're going to buy the extra heavy, B grade harness. Got it. There's going to be a process sheet that's going to tell all those details of the grade, the weight, what type of leather that they need to be, the date that it needs to go out the door by, anything from selecting it to putting the finish on it to sending it to the rolling wrap table where they're going to put it in rolls of, anywhere from 2 to 5, depending on how heavy it is. And then write the weight on it, send the paperwork downstairs and process it out. There's some that are, that's a short 3-4 step process. We have some that are 2 pages long.
What are the 2-page ones?
Oh man. Anything from if you've got to split it to start with, and then you've got to send it downstairs and we reprocess it to a, let's say we're going to turn it into our, some drum dyed specific color where we reprocess
that goes back down.
Yeah. So sometimes we can make that straight through the tannery, but if we were doing something unique, we may send it back down and reprocess it. And then when it gets upstairs, we've got to, maybe we're going to add oil to it, and then we're going to put moss and finish on the flesh. And then we're going to you could put a whole list of things, but usually it's a lot of the hand swab applications and the pressing.
I should have picked the drum dyed.
That's right. but a lot of the processing that has steps where it has to wait, there's dry time in between processes. So that's where the lead times get extended out, and some of those extended process sheets where you get into the second page. But
how long does it take you to put, so say I order, like our standard 50 sides of black Hermann Oak drum dyed. How long does it have to go into the dyeing pits?
So the color would all come from the drums. So our drum dyed. So the color of our natural leather is from the tannins. The drum dyeds, the chocolates, the dark chocolates, rust, black, saddle tan, all those are done in the drums. So we'll take that leather either straight through from the tannery, or we'll send it back downstairs to be reprocessed and dyed. In the case of black, if we want it to be fully penetrated with dry, that could take 2 to 3 days in the drum.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So we try to optimize that by putting it on Friday so that it has the weekend. And we've got operators that are there over the weekend that run the mills. But there's somebody at the tannery 24/7. So there's 2 to 3 days for the black. Our chocolate, it's overnight. Most of the colors take 1 day. So we put them through the drum, get them dyed, take them out, send them to drying.
And do the finishing.
Yep.
How many stories is Hermann Oak?
Ooh. So we say 3, but there's like a third and a half. So there's like this half step that goes up to an additional drying room.
Is that secret room?
Yeah.
Isn't that little half?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the secret drying room. We've got, I think in total, there's 3 or 4 drying rooms. There's one on the main tannery floor. Then there's one that's a separate building. Then there's the toggle rooms upstairs. And then there's, like I said, I call it the third and a half floor, 4th floor. But so there's technically 4 floors, I guess you'd call it. They're just not evenly spaced out.
Sure. Well, the building was built in. Was it built in 1881?
1880. Well, the building would have been actually older than that.
Yeah.
But Hermann Oak started in 1881. And I got to brush up on my history, but there was actually, when L.C. Hermann founded the company, it was Hermann and Konitzer was the original name. So he had a business partner that he ultimately bought out and then changed the name to Hermann Oak Leather. There is a piece, you talked about how long leather lasts. There is a piece of leather that is stamped Hermann and Konitzer in the tannery office conference room that we know, based on the fact that it was branded Hermann and Konitzer, that it's a 140-year-old piece of leather.
That's wild.
Yeah. So it can last a long time, and it's a piece of our black harness leather. So, but it's sitting in the showroom. So
that's so cool.
Check it out next time you're down there. But
I will. I usually just peek in there and look at some of the cool stuff on the wall. But
yeah, so there's a really old piece of leather hanging out in our.
That's amazing.
Room. But so yeah.
So when Hermann and who?
Konitzer.
I like just Hermann Oak. That's easier.
Let's go with that.
When they moved in and they dug these pits into the ground, that is one of the coolest things that I've ever seen is walking into that beam house.
There's 2 places where everybody wants to take pictures.
Yeah.
And it's by the yards. And the funny part is on our tour, because again, the building's been adapted over 140 years. So when you take a tour, it doesn't really flow in the order of which we actually process the leather through the tannery.
Yeah.
So you start by the first yard where the first leather, where the first tannins, where anything goes in, but they actually get unhaired on the other side of the building. But the first yard, it's like, oh, we should take a picture because it's really cool. You see all the pits with the rocking motion, and we say there's hundreds and hundreds of sides of leather tanning in that yard, and it's really cool.
Yeah.
But that's the newer yard. Then you go into the far yard, and it's the original 1881 that's oak lined, or it's oak lined, clay packed, and all connected with oak piping. That's what they built in 1881 to tan leather. So we have a specific guy that comes to clean those out. As far as if anything gets clogged up, we don't let anybody come in because we don't want anybody to bust up the piping. And we use specific straps to hang the leather so that if we have to, we don't have plastic straps hanging in there. They get clogged up. So, but it's
who's the guy?
So it's our local Roto-Rooter guy, but we request the same guy. He always knows what he's in for when he comes to see us. But it's a 144-year-old tanning yard. And so once everybody gets past the first one, they're like, oh, we should take a picture here. And then you get the second one. Oh, you want to take a picture. You want to take a picture here.
Yeah.
So we got a spot where we usually do that.
It's just such an incredible amount of history. And then I know that I just want to make sure that I am correct in still saying this, that you have never drained those original pits.
They get emptied whenever we take the leather out for that day, and then they get filled right back up. So they never sit empty. Again, it's wood, so we want to keep it covered. And
how many gallons of fluid are you pumping in there?
I don't have that number, but it's a lot. Each pit is around 8 foot deep and wide enough to hold call it a 8 foot long side.
Yeah.
So they're 8 foot deep, 8 foot long, and probably 6 foot wide. And there's 60, 70 of them in one yard, and then another I guess it'd be 36 on the other side.
Wow.
So all full of tanning extract, tanning liquors.
I hope that everyone at some point in their life gets to go to Hermann Oak and experience it. And if you can't do that, then you should watch the tour of Hermann Oak that Van Plu did with you guys here really recently, last year. It was right before Shep passed away, wasn't it?
Yeah. He was working on it because the reason that video came around was he came and did an interview with Shep for his podcast, and video interviewed Shep and took a lot of good content out in the tannery for B-roll for that. Yeah. And then, Steve got the idea. He's passionate about everything he does. That dude's awesome. But he's so passionate about everything he does, and specifically the leather industry. And he just walked around. He said he'd seen there's a video that's still out there. That's the tannery tour where Shep narrates it. And it's a really good resource. It's very technical. It tells you a lot about the history of the company, the leather and the process. And Steve, with his artistic mind, was like, man, I don't want to create this again. I want to build on it, and I want to make it more creative, artistic, and more modern. So he took that same video concept and built a whole new tannery tour video. So I mean, it's on YouTube. It's a
Hermann Oak tour.
Yeah, if you go to YouTube, it's on his page. It's actually linked from our website too. That's what we were looking at earlier. But it's like a 22-minute video, 20 minutes of the tannery. So we kind of go start to finish. You get to listen to me talk about it. Nice. So we do the whole tour. You get to see everything start to finish from, so that's how they show up salted. Yeah. We put them in hair on, take the hair off over the course of 48 hours, and then they go on through the beam house. But the video does everything from start to finish. You get to see it all. The only thing you miss is the smell. So.
That's right. It is especially this part right here. has quite the smell.
Yeah. So the beam house is the original 1881 beam house. So that's the kind of where all the history is. But I mean, you get to see everything. You get to see the guys unloading. These are the guys that show up at 4. That's Thomas there in the
These are the guys.
Yeah. So they're there starting early. But like I said, Steve put this together, and it just gives everybody an idea of what goes into making the leather and how hard,
it's hard.
Yeah.
It's a hard job. And that's when you're there and you're watching these guys, I mean, you think a side of 9 to 10 ounce or saddle skirting is heavy when it's dry. Like imagine pulling out a whole hide when it's wet and then processing a wet hide all the way through those. I was flabbergasted when I walked through there because you just like, we're just here with our cute little dry pieces of leather, or you can buy a 12 by 24 pre-cut and you've got this great piece of leather. But like when you see those men are some hard working fellas.
Yeah. I mean, they bust tail, and it's what we're buying is jumbo heavy. So they start out as heavy as we can get them.
Yeah.
In some cases, we'll get sides that, they start at minimum of 80 pounds. So then you're wrangling it wet and slippery out of that bat or out of the paddles, and then you got to cut it and turn it aside and handle it through. But these guys work together. Like I said, we talk about like the training and people helping each other out. You will never see one person pushing a cart by themselves because there's somebody else helping because they know how hard it is.
Yeah.
So they're helping each other out, but they see somebody slinging hides the wrong way, and they're like, "Hey man, you're gonna throw your back out." So then they're helping them. They're showing them how to do it better and always improve. And
I was gonna say the first time I went there, I was like, "Is this just like football players? Like, did we just we're like, hey Rams, when you retire from there, you can come here."
But I mean, there's some guys that you think, man, they shouldn't be able to fling that, but they look like they're throwing paper.
Yeah.
But they're
good at it.
They're good at it.
They've been doing it. It is just a fascinating place to visit and to see. And just like you said, when people, like you tell them that you work at Hermann Oak Tannery, they're like, "Oh, do you make things like wallets and bags?" And we have this, like people will come in here and we're like, "Oh, we're Springfield Leather. We sell leather." And they're like, "Oh, do you tan it?" And I can't even just but help laugh because I'm like, "Oh no, like that's a whole different thing."
Come to St. Louis, let them show you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I'll sell you the finished stuff all day long, but the whole tanning process, we are, as society, we are so removed from the production process of almost anything. Like, I mean, when was the last time you picked a watermelon off of a vine? I did see my father-in-law is growing some, but at the same time, you just go to the grocery store and just vegetables appear. They're just there. You go buy them. We don't do a lot of that anymore. Like we're not raising cattle outside in general. I know that they're definitely, I'm in Springfield, Missouri, and there's cows all around me, and there's plenty of people that do that. But just as people in general, we're just really removed from the production process of most things. And so like experiencing what it is to produce a product, produce a material. You think about maybe going to a paper plant that's going to produce paper, and they're starting with tree pulp, which is actually pretty ironic. You guys start with the outside of the tree and they start with the inside of the tree.
We use the inside too.
Do you use the inside?
So it's the tree. The trees we use are quebracho and wattle, and we use it's the heartwood and the bark. So it's heartwood from one, tree bark from the other, but we do use both. So okay. So let's talk about the tanning process just a little bit. Let's get a little nitty gritty with the specifics there. So you got this wet blue hide, or not wet blue because you start with salted hides because we're veg tanning. So you got this hide with some hair on. So what does it go? Where does it go? So step one is we take the salted hides, hair on, put them into the lime paddles. The first step is removing that salt, removing that cure. That's day one. Day two is when we actually
start. Does that take a whole day?
We take 2 days to take the hair off. Day one is really just a cleanup. We're getting it ready, getting everything ready, getting all the.
You're washing her down,
getting her ready. Day two is removing the hair. So we do it. We could do it in 13 hours or something like that, but we take the 48 hours to do it because one of the things about Hermann Oak is we leave as much of the enamel on the grain as possible. So
grain has enamel?
It does. So
like your teeth?
Yep. It's like a protective layer.
Interesting. Okay.
So by leaving that on there, it gives it some characteristics. When we talk about what do you like about Hermann Oak, a lot of people say, well, man, the way it burnishes is really good. Like, I don't get that in others. Like, okay, well, that's because that enamel contributes to how well you see that burnish, that dark, deep burnish. When you talk about oiling and dyeing, and it's consistent in oiling and dyeing, that enamel allows for a consistent layer. Now, if you go to a different tanning where you're talking about like wet blue and chrome tanning, they don't need that because there's going to be a pigment that's put over it. We mentioned this earlier, we're not pigmenting anything. So we want to leave it as unaltered as we can.
Right.
We want to leave it as protected as we can, because that's what's going to contribute. When we think in the saddle market, you got a 20-year-old saddle and it still looks like that rich patina of leather. The enamel contributes to that versus it just taking on the dirts and oils and turning that really heavy, like Mississippi mudwater brown. Right.
Yeah.
That enamel matters. So we take some extra time to do that. We leave that enamel on there. Then step 2 is, after 48 hours, it comes out of that. You saw the guys cutting them into sides.
Yep.
So we take them, cut them into sides. Then we're going to run them through a machine that removes a little extra of the hair follicle. Again, we remove the hair by chemically dissolving it, but we did it in a very mild process that leaves that enamel. So that means that there's going to be something left underneath.
Sometimes there's some little black spots in the leather.
So there's a machine that pushes the rest of those out. It's not cutting them, not scraping them. It's just a dull roller blade that pushing.
You mean like those things that you could buy to like get like the blackheads out of your nose, like a little like push it out?
Called an industrial version of that. Sure, yeah. But we're running them through there and we're cleaning them up because, again, we know that our natural leather is what we've been making for years, and we need to make it as pristine as we can. So we're doing that. Removing that, we call it scud. It's the little blue dots you're talking about.
Yeah.
So we're removing that, and then we're going to run it through the fleshing machine, get rid of some flesh, and then we're going to decide where is it going. Is it going to be skirting or strap? And then from there it gets de-limed, and this is where we're removing the lime.
Because you put lime in it.
Put lime in it. Now
to get the hair out.
Now we've got to get rid of that. So we remove most of that lime, and then from there it's going to the tan yards.
So is that just like another bath?
Just another set of paddles. Yeah. Smaller paddles, less per paddle, but we're just getting them ready to go to the tan yards.
Like the lime is an acid. So it's a base. It goes into some sort of a base.
Yeah. So we're basically adjusting the pH.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're trying to control the pH. And then once it comes out of those paddles, this is the second most differentiating factor about Hermann Oak. And actually, it's probably the most, the enamel being the second. But every veg leather, import or otherwise, with the exception of what we think are like 2 that do, in Europe that do a total of like 100 sides annually or something like that. They're not a production, right? It's like family hobby tanning.
Hobby.
Yeah. Quite a family hobby.
That's quite a hobby.
But no, I think there's a couple of them that still follow what we would call the traditional veg tannage.
Okay.
But what that means is when it comes out of those last set of paddles, it goes straight from there into the tan yards.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds pretty simple, except for every other veg now goes through a salt acid pickle. So it comes out of those paddles, gets pickled, which lowers the pH drastically, puts a salt acid into it, which makes it very, it gives it a different temper, makes it a lighter bodied leather, a lighter color leather, because again, the pH is lower, and pH is what makes a lot of the difference in the color of the finished leather.
Okay.
So when you get a Hermann Oak side and you think, man, this is firm.
Yeah.
What you're feeling is the temper difference between us not pickling it and other leathers that do the pickling process.
Okay. So the pickling it makes it floppier.
Makes
when
it
you pickle.
A softer temper.
It opens the pores up, right?
It's putting the salt and acid into the hide structure.
Okay.
So when you get talking to what people comment about, they like about Hermann Oak, like how it takes water.
Right.
How it holds the moisture and how it tools and stamps. Well, it holds the water the way it does because it doesn't have that salt acid pickle. So think of putting salt into something and then putting water on it. It's going to be different. It's going to react different.
Yeah.
Versus something that's fully tanned with all the wood extract that we were talking about, right? It's going to hold that water. Wood's going to hold that water. It's a simple way that my brain thinks about it in the simple form. So when it holds that water, you can tool on it longer. It's going to give you that, that smooth cut with your knife. It's going to stamp, crisp, all the characteristics. But
there's no salt in there to catch on.
There you go. So
interesting.
A lot of guys, their comment will be, I can carve the whole, I can do a bunch of belts, carve it up. It's great. But if I use something else, I have to strap my knife a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's just harder on blades. I mean, it makes sense. But we sell it like, again, our leather is really well suited for certain things.
Right.
The characteristics that we impart on the leather give it, make it exceptional in those applications. There are some applications where a softer leather is necessary.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's what we say. We like that everybody has choices.
Right.
What we do is different and unique, and we think that it's great for certain applications, and everybody else has, certain things that they want to make, and they need a different type of leather.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of great leathers out there. It's just, there's different processes, and a lot of people, Tom would also say, if you like Hermann Oak, why you like Hermann Oak.
Yeah.
All right. That makes sense. Like, I like the way it burnishes. I like the way it cuts. I like the way it stamps.
Well, and you even just talked about the color.
Yeah.
It's significantly different when you look at a piece of Hermann Oak versus most import or other leathers that have been pickled. Those are very white. Yeah. Sometimes they also bleach them. Is that correct? On any of them? Or is it mostly that pickling process?
The pickling is the main factor in that color.
In that whiteness.
There is a process called bleaching and fat liquoring that every tannery does to some extent, but that's the step after it's been tanned. So it comes out of the yard, it goes into the drum. What you're doing is you're washing out the excess tannins that are on the surface, but you're just cleaning it up. And that bleach, the bleaching and fat liquoring, that's really the cleaning up. Like if there's iron stains and things like that you want to clean up, and you want to, like I said, remove excess tannins off the grain and give it that good consistent color. And then the fat liquoring is just the oils the rituals that give it the temper and the feel and the supple feel of leather that people expect. So, so there is a bleaching, I call it bleaching stage of most tannages.
Okay. You guys do that?
Yeah. Bleaching, fat liquoring and bleaching is, it's not like we're not dumping bleach into it.
Yeah. You're just cleaning.
Yeah, it's effectively, like we would say, like, Liz, how would you recommend somebody get iron stain off of their leather? You probably say, oxalic acid.
Mm-hmm.
Right. There's that we use oxalic to clean iron stain. So that's part of the drum process.
Gotcha. And so between like the two main standouts of Hermann Oak leather compared to other veg tans are going to be the color. It's darker. It ages in more of a reddish tone. It's really beautiful. It kind of gets that mahogany tone going on, where you were talking about like a lot of other leathers kind of age to like a yellowish brown. They kind of go that route. And then the temper of it. I know there's been many a times I can take a 6x12 piece that I cut out, and I can hold them on the very ends of the 12-inch long side, and the Hermann Oak is pretty much going to go, like, it's going to be a slight bridge out to the end of the 12 inches. The import is just going to fall down, and there's going to be like a 4 or 5 inch gap between, the one or the Hermann Oak and the import.
It's a fuller body leather.
Which is great when you want to make a holster and you need it to hold its shape, and you need it to mold when you're making a knife sheath, and you need it to hold its shape and mold, or, any sort of saddle things that you want it to get in there and then stay.
Yep. It's purpose built for a certain application.
Yeah.
And that's what we've stuck to.
Well, and you guys can only make 600 sides at a time. So it's not like you're here to provide the whole world with leather. Like, that's not the goal at Hermann Oak.
I'd love for it.
Well, yes, but you need a few more buildings.
Yeah, we're going to need some more in downtown St. Louis. It's not a lot of places to build, but
not a lot of expanding happening.
No.
Suck up more of that Mississippi River.
We're right off the river. I said, right where Tannery would. I said, everybody asked, like, where are you located? I'm like, right where you build a business 144 years ago, right off the river in St. Louis.
River. Yeah.
So.
I wonder how many other industries are still there from when Hermann started this venture back in the day.
I know there's one family-owned business in St. Louis that's older, and I think it's a parts or like a metal lubrications or something, fabricated parts. But so there is one that I'm aware of that's still owned and operated by the same family in St. Louis that's older than Hermann Oak, but there's not that many.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
Well, let's see here. We're getting to the end of our hour. So why don't we just, what about Adam? We kind of talked about how you ended up at the tannery, but what makes you want to stay with the leather business? What gives you purpose at Hermann Oak?
The people. That sounds simple, but what gets me amped up is dealing with our customers, dealing with, when we go to the shows, just talking to people. And I go back to, my other careers and, what I liked about that and what I like about this. The difference in trade shows is dynamically different, but people at these trade shows, when we go to any of the industry craft shows, the people that are there want to be there.
Yeah.
Right? They've invested their time to come there. And then they've decided to come take a class and learn. And
you've even taken some classes.
I need to take a lot of classes.
Adam's been learning.
We're going to start a series called Love Learns Leather.
I love it.
But I get amped up about talking about leather, and it's like I would have never thought I would, but because it's something so unique and there's so many people that are passionate about it, and I'm fortunate enough to work for a very reputable name in the leather industry that I get the honor to represent. That's fun. Like I told the guys at our Tuesday meeting, the whole plant, I said, thanks for making my job so awesome, because I get to represent you and I get to tell people about the leather that you make and why it matters and why it's different. So what gives me purpose, like I said, I think just knowing that I'm representing something, much larger than I probably realize.
Yeah.
Just representing the people and the culture of Hermann Oak. I mean, it's phenomenal. And I say that because it's true. Like it's fun. And I hope I'm doing this for as long as I possibly can. Hope someday I'm like Kevin and I'm still slinging leather.
75.
But ask Kevin, like, why is he so passionate about what he does? Like there's something about this industry that's different. And it draws you in. Like I said, Rusty said it at lunch. Second I saw it, I knew I had to be part of it.
Yeah.
And I always said, like, if something happened tomorrow and I wasn't able to work at Hermann Oak, like I've already, like in 3 years, like there's people that I know would be friends for a lifetime just because that's the type of people that we deal with.
It is.
And it's fun. And I like to learn. So I always have, I have so many people that have taught me things and been resources to me. You mentioned Adam's Learning Leather. I've got a lot of good resources, but one of the things that am, I guess, happy about is that I'm not getting paid to go take these classes. Like I enjoy doing it. Like that's me doing that because I want to. It helps me learn the leather, and that's kind of the initial interest. Like I should learn a little bit about the leather so I know what my customers are talking about. Mm-hmm. But then that turned into, well, I actually like doing this. This is fun.
You're pretty good at it too.
I don't know. You reviewed my sheath and gave me some critiques.
Well, it was just the one. So like Chris said, you didn't make another one.
Yeah, I'll have to make another one. So if Chris Andre is listening to this, sorry, my sheath didn't pass the muster that Liz reviewed it. But just learning and trying different things and trying different leathers and just understanding what's going on in the world of leather. And I enjoy it. Like I just enjoy trying constructing different things and tooling's a whole different animal, but I've got some good teachers and people have helped me. Like I said, I didn't know what to buy. I didn't know where to start. No. I got online and bought a starter kit, and we work with Steve Yezik quite a bit. He does some instructing and teaching, and got some of his
this guy Lazy Y Leather.
Yeah, does some cool stuff. He's got his own style, just a phenomenal artist and awesome guy. But when I was talking to him about getting started in leather, he immediately called me because I sent him a picture of something I had done. And I said, what do you think? And he calls me and says, what are you using? What tools do you have? And I said, I don't know. I just bought a kit. And he goes, I gotta fix that. So then he hooked me up with some of his old tools. And that's kind of where I got started, is just learning to tool with some of the stuff that Steve had. So, he helped me out a lot, got me started. And so I learned to tool some things, and still trying to figure out how to tool some things. But I just think he's got a really cool style of tooling, and it's not Sheridan. It's his own style. And like I said, I think that's what's cool about the leather tooling side of things, is everybody has their own style, and you hear that. until you really look at it and see the influences that people have had and who they've learned from and how they've made it their own. And actually, if you go up, so like that one on the right there, yep. So that's actually hanging in my basement. He actually that was a gift for when me and my wife moved to St. Louis. So
nice.
So just an awesome dude to help me out a lot. And like I said, he probably doesn't want people to know that he taught me how to tool when people see my tooling, but well, I'm still learning.
Yeah. Like Denny says, you will only get better the more you do it. So everybody's like, oh, how do I perfect this? Or how do I, and Denny's just like, you just keep doing it.
Yeah.
You just have to keep working with it. Mm-hmm. You just sit down a couple times a week at a bench and you hammer something out.
Yeah, just try. And I'll say, you mentioned Don earlier. I would say I'm not artistic at all. And he said, I can teach you how to draw. Mm-hmm. He said, you need to learn to draw. Yeah. He said, and you can. You just need to learn how to. So he said, get a doodle pad and he goes, sit down for 10, 20 minutes, just doodle something. But that'll help you in your tooling. If you know how to draw it, you can tool it.
Yeah.
But if you don't know the structure of this floral pattern, you're just trying to trace lines and you'll end up upside down. But if you know how to draw it,
if you understand
the flow and the structure,
then that's what you got. Yeah.
So I'm learning a lot.
That's awesome.
Just making the standard. I'd say I'm the standard leather crafter. I started out making belts and strap goods, so it's fun.
Well, that's all right. I know. Oh gosh, it was Todd forever ago. He came down at one point after I'd been working here for probably 5 or 6 years, and either I went up there, he came down here or something. And there's not a lot of leather crafters at Hermann Oak. You know, you make a lot of leather, but there's not a lot of guys that really know what happens after that. Yeah. And I know Todd was talking about how like it was something that he really felt like he needed to kind of experience a little bit. And even if it wasn't something, that he was going to do, on a regular basis, but just like understanding the product that you are selling, how somebody is going to use it helps you make it better.
Yep.
Helps you understand the difficulties that somebody might have. And it makes a whole, shift to your perspective.
1,000%. I don't know how much it's helped me. There's not a way to measure it, but when a customer calls in and they're explaining something, if I've experienced it, I've expedited finding that solution by days because now I don't have to go ask somebody. I've experienced it. I can relate to what they're saying and find a solution. So, and like when you all call, if you have a customer that's saying, hey, they're seeing this, like how much better is it when I can answer the question same day versus saying, well, let me get back to you on that. So it's been helpful just experiencing it. Next, that's why we've, cut our newest addition to the team loose. Like, hey, go learn something. Have fun in Springfield leather.
Yeah. So figure out how the product is making it to the customer. What what is happening.
He's probably got a shopping cart filled up for his starter kit.
I hope so.
He's probably out there. Kevin's probably setting him up.
All right. Well, Adam, I think that is our time here. And I so appreciate you coming down and bringing Jacob with you so that we can get his feet wet on the consumer side of some leather craft. But it's always a great time talking to you. And thanks for coming.
Yeah. Let's go make something.
How about that? I love it.
Cool.
Bye, guys. And that's a wrap on episode 2 of the Make Something podcast. A big thank you to Adam Love from Hermann Oak for taking the time to share his knowledge and insight with us. If you're enjoying this podcast so far, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a fellow maker. We've got plenty more conversations coming your way. Until next time, keep learning, keep creating, and most importantly, make something.